Rav, for joining us. I would like to invite our registrar, Mr. Kashif Rafi, to introduce our next guest.
Thank you, Amreen, for letting me do this. On behalf of the Chancellor ILMA University, Mr. Numan Abid Lakhani, Vice Chancellor Professor Dr. Mansoor Daud, the conference chair, me being the co-chair and the registrar of the university, we are profoundly in the presence of a celebrity who's a global phenomenon. Mr. Faran Tahir. I'm sure everyone would have heard of him. Mr. Faran, can you hear me?
I can definitely hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you very well. Welcome. I can very well understand that you have a lot of things happening on your plate and there's so much aspect that you have to look into. We once again thank you for joining us. You're a global icon. As Pakistani, I feel so proud at this moment talking to you. You're an absolute gem of a person, a celebrity. I was just going through your IMDb profile. They call you the danger. Can you tell us why they call you the danger?
Well, a couple of things. Well, thank you. First of all, I'm really humbled and honored to be part of this conference because I think forums like this are imperative, especially at this point where we are globally, because media has become one of the driving forces in pretty much every aspect of our life. I usually say that we are living in an age where basically wars are won and lost in media before they're ever fought in a battlefield, because it has all become a war of opinion more than anything else. But thank you so much for your wonderful, humbling introduction.
No, I have not just finished. I have something more to say also. I was just going through, I remember seeing Mr. Faran in Iron Man 1 as Raza, then moving on forward, seeing you in Scandal as President Bushard. I remember you were there representing being the Iranian president. Right. Then to the Blacklist, then to Star Trek. Every role that have you played is just looks like it just fits the glove so beautifully that it represents so much diversification, so much learning, so much experience. It's something that you feel that the person who's performing that role absolutely became that role. Like for Robert Downey Jr., Iron Man was the defining role. So as for Chris Evans as well, and you worked with those guys. Those have become. Marvel has become part of everyone's life. A 10 years, 15 years journey, starting from Iron Man 1, which you played an important role, and all the way to the accumulation of the Avenger Endgame. But there you have played such a variety of roles that have defined so many things. Before I move on, we have a short video that we made for the different roles that you have played. So let's play this first, and we're going to have a bit of chat, and then you can give your keynote address. Hassan, could you please play that video, please, first?
The Holy Quran. I want one in myself. And I want to say the name of Allah and the Prophet Muhammad in the open air. I want to be seen by my God.
We welcome Faran Haroon Tahir as keynote speaker. He is a Pakistani-American actor who appears in American television series and films, best known for his roles as Raza in Iron Man and his Captain Rebel in Star Trek.
Compliments of Tony Stark.
To a group of foreign fighters referred to by locals as the 10 Rings.
And enjoy your ride.
Something up over there?
Did you see this?
Call before I came in. What?
Your grandfather is here.
From Pakistan? Oh my God!
He comes from a theatre family well known in Pakistan. Both his parents are actors, directors, and writers in Pakistan. He received his bachelor's degree from the University of California, Berkeley, and his graduate degree from the Institute for Advanced Theatre Training at Harvard University. He has been nominated and has won many awards for his work in theatre and film.
So that was a short video we just quickly came up for you. Homage to you. You are actually, we feel so proud that as a Pakistani, you represent us. There are very few Pakistani there, although they are there at every endeavor in Hollywood, from graphic animation to Frozen to all the way to you. You have spent most of your life in America. Just a quick before we, people have been hearing me a lot, so let me say it in Urdu. वो मुझे तो बहुत सुन चुके हैं. Actually वो सुनने आपको आए हैं और बहुत से लोगों ने तो खास तौर पे आपको सुनने के लिए. I was impatiently waiting for the last 2 days just to have a conversation with you. Not every day I as a person get an opportunity to interact with a Hollywood celebrity. So वो एक बड़ा अच्छा. You've been to Harvard. I was recently appointed as mentor and judge for Harvard Education Policy Thon, and I recently completed the March 2021. The only Pakistani to conduct a workshop with March 2021 was organized by Policy for People, Harvard University Institute of Kennedy Institute of Politics, and Arvina and other people from Hack Plus. So it was Hack Plus Policy Thon, the only Pakistani to conduct a workshop on leadership and success. So मेरे तो 2-3 दिन से जब डॉक्टर यास्मीन ने गए, we actually, to tell you a bit background, मैं थोड़ा टाइम ले रहा हूँ, sorry आपका. We started to get a hold of you about 3 months back. Right. So I talked to Yasmin, yes, we need to have someone actually big who can actually is a Pakistani, but it's a role model for many and for many 2 years to come as well. So we were discussing, and I just remembered you from Iron Man. Why am I not talk about Faran Tahir? And she went to great lengths first to find your father, then she talked to your father,
no doubt,
then you started dropping emails to you. I know she also knew that you are quite busy. You have not many projects here. You were here in Pakistan recently, I presume.
I was. So I mean, so that's one of the strange nature of the business that I'm in, is that it's feast or famine. There are times when you're not doing much for 2 or 3 months because we don't have a 9-to-5 job. And then a period will come when you don't have a minute to even scratch your head. Unfortunately, I was in one of those periods. Well, let's say fortunately that I was in one of those periods for the last 6 months. I was in Pakistan. I was doing a film. At the same time, I was also editing a film that I had done in Pakistan last year. Both those projects were happening simultaneously. So that was a pretty busy time. And ever since I've been back, now that this COVID situation is slowly improving in the United States, our industry is finally opening up, and people don't realize this, but entertainment industry was hit very hard because of COVID. And one of the biggest reasons is that one thing that people don't realize is that when we're shooting, if I'm acting in a scene, I can't have a mask on. Of course, if we're shooting something that's not COVID related. So how do you keep everybody involved safe, for one thing, and yet try to create content? So because of that, especially in Hollywood, the restrictions were so severe that the industry pretty much closed down for a year. So things are picking up, and obviously we're getting busier. So I apologize for not being as communicative as I should have been. Yet I'm here, and really,
you're here.
Happy
that is the actual thing matters, because you, apart from your all time constraints and the commitments here, you're here, and we're pleased that you're here, because it gives us a lot of motivation. And to all of us over here, Shafi Ki Jamri Sam is also here. He's one of the legends. You would have also absolutely would have heard of him. So इससे मतलब मैं मजीद अब बोलता रहूं, मैं तो रुकूंगा ही नहीं. So obviously, let's I give the floor to you. It's all to you.
हाँ देखिए, thank you. असल में मेरे पास 2-4 बातें ही करने के लिए हैं, because मैं आप लोगों की बातें सुन रहा था, और जितनी पते की बातें आप लोगों ने की हैं वो शायद मैं ना कर सकूं. लेकिन I can bring in a different aspect of media, which is that I totally agree that there has been a lot of advancement in the technology side of it, because I think we are now living in a time where we're all globally connected. And because of that, there's certain good things that have happened, and there's certain things which we need to correct as we go along. Part of it is that I think with the explosion of social media, sometimes the entertainment media is getting muddied up with personal social media and entertainment social media. There's a lot of crossover, and sometimes that crossover is not true entertainment. It is more based on not the quality of work, but on the quantity of viewership that you can obtain from putting that content on. So one of the biggest problems that we are having right now is how do we combat that particular issue? The technological side is going by leaps and bounds. Mr. Arif Rauf was speaking about the virtual technology. I just did something that was very, very interesting and groundbreaking. We did the longest virtual reality shoot. We did Hamlet in virtual reality, which was an amazing situation because you had the freedom in that situation to turn as Hamlet is giving a soliloquy. If you wanted to see what was happening to other characters in that particular moment, you were able to turn your face and look at that character. So you were basically creating live theater in a very different form. The problem that we are having is that we tend to, especially in the media side, in the entertainment media side, we get stuck in one or two particular technological advancements or one or two particular storylines. For us in the media industry, the strength of the media industry is based on the variety in the menu that we can produce. And in producing that variety in the menu, the quality has a lot to do with it. Now, certain great things that have happened because of the globally connected world that we live in is that now, because of this connection, certain things are not issues anymore. I'll give you an example. Language is slowly becoming a less of an issue to understand and enjoy content, entertainment content that is being offered on platforms. For example, I mean, on a very simple level, I mean, a series like Money Heist, which is in Spanish, is all of a sudden, the talk of the world all of a sudden. So what is happening is that we are letting go of certain barriers that would keep us from enjoying or understanding or finding empathy in certain stories. That particular side is going away. But by the same token, because of the personal social media flooding the waves, there is a confusion in what is quality and what is just content based on wanting more viewership. So there's a huge debate that's going on that we're dealing with. Vis-a-vis, now, if we were to take this particular problem and apply it to what is happening in Pakistani entertainment industry, is again that there is no dearth of talent in the Pakistani film industry. Now that I've worked there a little bit and have been fortunate enough to know people in that industry for the last 30 years, that we are getting stuck in trying to only push certain kinds of stories out to the audience. And unless we expand the menu, and that responsibility falls upon us as content makers to bring that variety to the audience, because the audience will only have the access to that content if we produce it, which creates a vicious cycle, because on the investment side, the business side of media making is a businessman who wants profit. And profit makes sense that if Coca-Cola sells more on the shelf, then produce more Coca-Cola. But that becomes a vicious cycle, because then you're only creating the content that you think is going to sell. The audience is only watching the content that you're offering, so there's no variety that's there, which creates a very thin industry rather than a strong industry. In order to battle this, and especially in countries like Pakistan, there is a wave of new content makers that we need to be focusing more and more on, because the established content makers are now so deeply into the business making side of it, that that balance, which is the art and the business, is now the scales are being tipped to the business side more, and that balance is not there. So my biggest concern right now is not with the technology that the media has to offer, but the quality that the media has to offer. And I'm not being a prude. I'm not saying that all content should not be watched or should not be offered. I'm just saying that we need to start to create certain buffers, certain quality checklists that we can then follow. And and I'll close on this. I give an example usually, which is that our content has to have a global identity and a global empathy and a global connectivity. We can put it in any frame that we want, whether it's Pakistani or American or Japanese or Asian, but the universality of stories need to be at the base of all of this. And the biggest issue that we have is, for example, what we forget is this, that if you're watching CNN and you turn off the image and you hear a woman wailing on the other side, just the sound, there is a human empathetic response that you will have to the person's cry. When you start to turn on the image, slowly the veils of separation start to set in that we have. Oh, this person is, oh, he's or she is from that part of the world, or he or she has that religion, or he or she speaks that language, or whatever. We start to remove ourselves from the pain. But what we stop to realize in that moment is that the connectivity that we had was on a human level. It is the frame that is pushing us away from the person's pain. And that is the kind of universality that, especially in the entertainment side of media making, needs to be brought back in this very divisive world that we have now created for ourselves. So at this point, I would love for us to actually have a dialogue on this particular aspect, rather than me going on for another 5 or 10 minutes, because I think these dialogues are the things that actually create more understanding, rather than just one person just blabbing on for 25 minutes.
No, I totally agree what you're getting at, and absolutely, it's the things you're talking about. You talked about Hamlet and everything. It's very important to understand the contents that is going on and how it's being portrayed and how it's being presented. It's one of the key factors that's all media is all about. I know you are pressed on time. Just I wanted to talk about. Could you talk about a bit of your life journey in terms of how you entered Hollywood and how the things has been?
Absolutely. I mean, I have no constraint on time. We can talk for as long as you want.
All right, then that's perfect.
My journey was well, I think everybody's journey is unique. Mine had its own ups and downs. I think part of it was that when I started, when I decided to really enter this particular field, I was living in the US. And one of the biggest issues that I had was that I didn't have any mentors in this particular field that came from my background. So there weren't any people who could really guide me through the ups and downs and the issues that I might confront. So in my case, it was a lot of throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks and learning as I went along. And some of the things that I learned were that I have to be practical about my dreams, about how to achieve them. And there's certain things that I had to realize was that if I was to do this, and especially as an actor, there's certain things about me that I can't change, and there's certain things that I don't want to change. For example, the color of my skin is going to remain the color of my skin no matter what. I can't change that. What I can change, if somebody wants me to, is, let's say if somebody wants me to do an American accent or an Arabic accent or Persian accent or whatever, that's a talent that I can acquire, that I can learn. So I had to literally go through a list of yeses and nos that people might throw my way when I go in front of them, and how many of those no's can I turn into yeses? So basically what I did was that I decided that in my case, it would be best for me to go and get as much quality education that I could, so that nobody could, when I walk into a room, people can't dismiss me that I don't have the training or the or the understanding of theater or film or television. That was one side of it. The other side was to actually be able to make sure that I came in with the right qualities that they might desire. So that was basically my approach. What I didn't do in the beginning was I didn't go for film or television, because in those days, some of the roles that were being written for people from our part of the world were so stereotypical that you couldn't even find a crack in there to make it human. And so the first 7 or 8 years I stayed with theater. I was part of a repertory theater for 7 or 8 years, which gave me the ability to do a lot of Shakespeare, a lot of classical theater, and all of that. And slowly started things to open up. Film and television started to open up. There were more roles which had enough room for you to at least make it real. That has been the big issue. Yes, in this field, one of the things that people do come to me with is that, why do you play so many bad roles, villains, and all that? And my answer to that is actually not true. If you really look at my IMDb, it's pretty much half and half in good and bad guys. But
Yes.
bad guys stick in your head a little bit more because they're fun.
They're fun, yes.
Yeah.
Because 90% of the time, movie, the villain has a bigger role than the hero.
Exactly. So that's a fun side of it, but by the same token, I think one of the issues that come hand in hand for people like me in this industry, and especially in the US, that when a Caucasian American actor doesn't have to deal with this particular issue, where if he plays too many bad roles, that he's now being labeled as a bad guy, because there is a skin or a culture factor involved. We, on the other hand, have to be careful. Even though I might love a role and it might be really juicy for me from an artistic perspective, I also at the same time have to look at it from a larger perspective of what I'm saying and how this is going to affect audiences or people's minds or people's ideologies or whatever. So you have to find for people like me, we have to find that balance where sometimes, even without wanting to be, you are an ambassador, which takes you away from just being an artist. But that's an internal battle that I will have to have, and I have to choose at times. What am I doing, which is just because it's a pure artistic challenge, and what is something that I'm doing that is going to have a larger effect on people. So that's the balance that I try to maintain. And in that, yes, there's some bad roles. But when you get bad roles, all you have to do is you have to think that nobody gets up in the morning and says, "Aha, I'm going to be a bad guy today."
Yes.
See, the truth is that the chilling part of somebody's evil actions is the justification with which that person comes to that evil act. And that's true for any evil act, whether it's fantasy or whether it's reality.
Yes.
It's so once you connect into that, then you can find ways to make that character human and all. So basically, that's been my journey, and that's been my approach and my dream to keep on trying to balance that this challenge.
Wonderful. So just a quick question, then I'll open the floor to the audience. I know there are many people, I see many impassioned faces that would love to talk to you. If I ask you, what 2 roles would you take on? You have actually done those, have defined your career in different ways of acting or as an artist. What are those 2 roles that actually defined you as a character?
Well, it's funny because people sometimes don't realize this, but in the industry, we always say that the actor's medium is theater. Actor's medium is not film or television. Partly because film and television is a director and an editor's medium. And the reason I say that is because as an actor, I can give a take or two that I thought were absolutely perfect. But that might not be the take that ends up in the movie because of one reason or the other. They might like the lighting was better, or the sound was better, or the background, whatever the reason might be. So having said that, some of the roles that I find as my defining roles have come through theater, which has, again, which is a great thing because you create those moments for a particular audience at a particular time. And there is a certain level of, I don't know, giving, because it's not recorded, it's nothing, it happens. But at the same time, a lot of people don't get to see it. Having said that, one of the defining roles that I find, which was really interesting to me, was playing Othello on stage. Partly because we had a very different take on it. And again, this is how you can create thought-provoking content. And that's why it affected me so deeply, because we did this in Washington at Shakespeare Theatre Company. And we made Othello, we explored the Muslim part of Othello. Partly because if he was a Moor, then there was a good possibility that Othello was a Muslim. And the only person in the play that says that he's not and that he has changed is Iago, who is the evil incarnate, and you cannot believe anything that he says. So if that's the case, how does a Muslim Othello deal with this situation? And what that did for me as a person was that I had to also then look at my own prison as a person who is a Muslim actor playing this character, and how to define that particular character, not as a glorification or as a demonization of the character, but as the humanization of the character, which is the harder part to achieve. When we create these characters, it is very easy for us to fall into those traps of either really glorifying a person or demonizing a person. And I think we as humans live in larger shades of gray than black and white. So how do you fill that in? And in filling that, I think one of the biggest thing, and I'll make it not as lengthy, but I can go on about this one, is that one of the strange things that happen, and that's why I think the power of media is so strong and it's so thought-provoking, that if we know the story of Othello, by the end, in the 5th act, out of jealousy, Othello kills his wife. We know this story. Now, in the 5th act, we used to start that act with me saying a prayer, because our idea was that the time when you earnestly ask for guidance from God is in the weakest or the most vulnerable of moments in your life. Whether you act upon that guidance or not is a different thing. Yet that's when you would ask for it. Now, in the play, Othello kills his wife. There were a lot of people, Muslim friends of mine, who came to me and said, well, you should not have said that prayer, because now it looks like an honor killing. Right? I mean, now that's a legitimate, thought-provoking question for someone to ask. And the answer to that is that jealousy is not based on any religion or any ideology. Jealousy is a human emotion, which goes across the board, regardless of color, creed, or class. So a crime of passion is a crime of passion. But if we are going to assign the killing to some honor killing idea, then in the play, Othello also, when he comes back to his senses, he forgives Iago for destroying his life. So if we're going to put the the killing of a character through this prism that others might think of our culture or religion or whatever, then by the same token, why are we not assigning a huge act of mercy to the same prism? Although even if as a Muslim Othello, one of the biggest things that we are taught in our religion is that forgiveness is the greater deed than revenge. So my point is that by the reason that play was so transformative for me was because it created a true dialogue. And sometimes you don't have to have the answer, but true art can actually create the right questions for us to look for the answers that we might find the answer tomorrow, or might take a lifetime to find that answer. So those are the kind of roles. That's the kind of content that's transformative and also creates a true growth as an artist for someone like me.
Okay, so that actually it's more about putting out there those actual portrayal of a character that makes a difference. That is kind of a thing. All right, so the floor is open to the audience. I would like to have talk to Mr. Faran Tahir. Amri, I think so. You have a question?
Yes. So actually, I just wanted to add something that as a huge Marvel fan, I was so excited when you were coming to this conference. And when Kashif Saab said that you would be coming, I said, okay, fine, I want to host this conference. and when the time came, you can see from his excitement, he's the boss. So he is the one who asked the questions and everything. But yes, we are very excited, and we're really excited to have you here.
Thank you. That's very kind of you to say that.
Especially agreed to be a part of this conference. I'm really honored. Though it was difficult for me, I'm honored.
I totally understand, and I'm sorry that I was not as communicative as I should have been. But I really appreciate being part of this conversation, because I think there are so many different aspects of media. There's the technology side of it. There are people who are working from the inside, behind, and in front of the camera. And we have different responsibilities, and we have different challenges. And I think if we can create forums like this, where we can have these conversations and find the understanding and empathy of different challenges that people might have from different aspects of media, I think there's no better service that we can provide. And especially when we put people of our background together, because our challenges, like everybody else's challenges, are unique. And the only people who can either tell those stories or fix those challenges is us. We can't rely on other people championing our causes, because other people don't understand our causes as well as we might understand. So I'm really so appreciative and really so encouraged by that there are forums like this where we can all come together and just exchange our knowledge, our experiences, and try to find a way forward, which could probably bring hopefully some good to the world.
Hopefully it will bring good. Shafi, would you like to add anything?
Just one thing. I would not dream.
Dr. Yasmin, please wait.
I would not dream that the word will fail me. But this time, the words have failed me. This is the second time in my life when I have been shaken. And don't get me wrong, first one was, I was from the BBC with my colleague from the Pashto service, and we both were talking to Bill Gates, Bill Gates, High Street, Kensington, virtual studio, and we talked for half an hour for different projects, a different program, and he talked about Pakistan, what he would be doing and what he would like to have. I came out after that virtual conference, and I could not believe I was talking to Bill Gates. And today, I will not forget that I was talking to the Iron Man. Iron Man, the Iron Man, you believe it, this is the gospel truth. The Iron Man whose movie I watched, by the way, watched that DVD after buying it, subsidized, reduced price, but did not pirate it. We watched it. Me and my studio manager, who has set the scene for me, and trust me, if I could just turn the camera, you would see that she is laughing, that this is the time. And I was impressed with your acting. I'm more impressed with the intellectual level which you have touched. More intellectual level as a human being, and you will understand the human psyche. And Othello, you perform Othello, and you found that character touching to you. Trust me, I have no other words, but I am glad that I was invited. And here I would say, still I'm pinching myself. Am I dreaming? No, I'm not dreaming. I have talked to you. It's a great honor, sir, to talking to you.
That is very, very kind of you. I mean, I'm so humbled right now that I'll be a puddle if I go any further, and you will have to wipe me off the floor. But really, I mean, I think these conversations are really imperative. And I think there's one other side to it, which on a serious note, that I think we should also, I hope that people start to understand this, that when we talk about the power of media is nothing without people actually, not just the people in the technology side of it and the artistic side. There's a third side of it, which makes the engine go. And I keep throwing this out to the ether for everyone to realize that we need people who can back these efforts, because there needs to be brave investors and people. I'm not asking for myself, but in general, there need to be brave investors who understand the power and also the profitability that media can bring to people. But by doing the same, I think you're pushing the media. You can push the media debate and the media development into the right direction. So thank you for saying that, and thank you for acknowledging that I might have a couple of things that might make sense to people. But I've become a broken record on this, because I think it's so important that we do understand and harness the power of media. That's where life is going, and that's where I think the future is going. And we need to not only harness it, we need to be able to mold it and use it. Yes, we can have all the fun with it, but there are certain responsibilities that we should not shirk. And some of those responsibilities from the actor's perspective that are now being compromised is that we have become so divisive that even our choices are becoming based on our beliefs or our political divisions or whatever divisions there might be. And I think as an artist, that is artistic suicide, basically.
Great. We have been joined by one of the most talented actor and director of Pakistan. You would have heard of him, Sarmad Sultan Khoosat. Samad, are you with us? Samad, can you hear me?
Yes. Hi.
Hello. How are you?
I am well. What a pleasure listening to Faran say all these nice things.
Sarmad, I am such a huge fan of yours, first of all, and not only that, I have known and have had the honor to work with your father. So to me, this is amazing. I'm glad that finally we are face to face.
Thank you, Faran. And what a joy it has been to listening to you.
Someone would like to add anything and ask something from Faran. You yourself is a very accomplished actor. You did Manto and you did Zindagi Tamasha. I guess it has been nominated for Oscars as well. So we would like to have a conversation with Mr. Faran.
No, I don't know. I mean, you can ask whatever you want to. Just one correction: we were only the submission from Pakistan. We're not nominated. So Zindagi Tamasha, Pakistan's official entry. We didn't make it to the shortlist. I think what Faran was saying, I'd only like to add a little bit just to the same thread that, many a times we are told that how for a country like ours or for this part of the world, art perhaps is too indulgent, or it is something that not be such a priority, or that, we underestimate the power or capacity of art. But very recently, and quite aggressively. The last year was, a big learning curve for me, where I understood that if art doesn't matter, then why does it scare people so much? I saw so much fear just created by, just notions of, and not just notions, I think assumptions regarding art. And that was so firsthand, ranging between death threats to censorship, that I think by the end of it, I've actually become a more firm believer in the power of art. And I think art and artistic expression, be it cinema, be it any kind of storytelling, it can do things that very few mediums possibly can.
Okay.
And I think your work is an evidence of that. Films like Manto and films like Zindagi Tamasha, these are films that are thought-provoking, and they're not about just creating something that has a bow on top that people can go watch and then forget about. It's a thought-provoking part of media that needs to be alive across the board. And that is what I'm saying, even vis-a-vis Pakistani media, that I have nothing against the content, the general content that comes out of Pakistani media. The problem is the variety. I think we just need to keep on expanding the menu. All that work that's done and the films that come out are fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But unless we expand this menu, and unless we create thought-provoking content that might not sit well with you all the time, I think that is the responsibility of an actor, of an artist, which is to, as I said earlier, to create more questions, not always to give answers, but it is our responsibility to put the mirror in front of the audience so that they can see their own reflection and judge that, are we these people that these guys are talking about, or are we not? And what do we learn from it? So again, the kind of content that Sarmad is producing, the kind of content that some of the other people in this particular field are producing, is necessary for the industry and for the media to move forward.
Great.
The key word here, as Faran said, is diversity, and in say more mainstream showbiz terms, variety. And that is what they did to our television. And by they, I think us, because, it's not about just a certain kind of storytelling or a certain kind of filmmaking. There just needs to be enough variety. And I think now there is like all sorts of, there are options for distribution and for consumption also, that people just need to create more varied stuff. And that sometimes translates as cowardice for me, that, when people stop experimenting and when they stop sort of, using their individual voice or style. And I've been associated with television for the past 2 decades now. And I've actually seen that, everybody is really scared of variety. They're scared of just, offering like a varied menu, And that is why people have started becoming bored of television. They're not interested in watching soap operas, because they should definitely be made. But as Faran said, variety is key. And that is a brave choice. And I think people just need to be more brave regarding that.
Absolutely. The more we extend the palette of the media in terms of whether it's film, television, or theater, the more variety people will have. They will have different perspective to look at things and have a different vision about things. Like Faran said, and you have also done Manto and Zindagi Tamasha. Actually, it's all about thought-provoking, creating a spark in the people through your acting, through your writing, through your production, your direction. That actually brings forward people to bring creativity to the ideas. There are a lot of people doing creative work in Pakistan and internationally as well, and everyone is trying to bid their role. So it's wonderful to see people like Sarmad and obviously Faran, who are at international level trying to make a difference. Even you, that's about if you put even a grain of sand there and it makes a difference, then even a single ripple matters a lot than having a tornado or a tsunami. So wonderful. Faran, it's lovely and it's a privilege to be talking to you at this conference. All thanks to Dr. Yasmin. I will not say the thanks. She is waiting anxiously to say her word of thanks to you. So Dr. Yasmin, the floor is yours.
As already said, thank you so much, Mr. Faran Tahir. You have taken out your precious time for us. And what should I say? I am really excited. I don't have words to thank you. Really, we are honored to have you in our conference.
No, thank you. That's very kind of you. And really, you don't need to thank me. I should be thanking you, as I said, because I think just being part of such conversations actually makes me a better person as I walk this earth. So thank you so much for making me a part of this.
Thank you. Great. It's wonderful having you here. If you can stay on, please stay on. We will be listening to Sarmad. He's going to talk about storytelling and creativity. So if you have time, please stay on. I hand over the floor to Mr. Sarmad. Amreen, I would like you to first officially invite Mr. Sarmad Sultan Khoosat to the floor, please.
Oh, so totally uncued. Like, isn't anybody going to ask?
Mr. Sarmad, it's a pleasure to have you with us. In fact, I watched your one series, Shashlik. So, uske baad maine fir Manto dekhi. So there was a huge difference because I don't live in Pakistan. So when I came here and I went to watch Manto, and it was amazing. Like I was astounded that Pakistan mein is tarah ka kaam hota hai. And it was just, मैं हर बंदे को recommend करती हूँ. All my friends, whether they are Pakistani or not, but I recommend them to watch Manto because I feel so proud when I see it. So yes, so your name is like when we speak your name, it creativity comes in our mind. So Mr. Sarmad is one of those actors who has who's internationally acclaimed. His Manto was chosen for lots of different international festivals, film festivals. He has not only created a wide and diverse audience for his work, but also proven that he is unafraid to experiment with craft. So we would love to hear something from you.
Thank you, Marine. You're too kind and very, very generous. I usually am very bad with uncued or unprompted conversations. So I a bit on storytelling that I'd like to say, and also keeping in mind, say, the last 4 or 5 years of my own career, I guess that everybody has at least a story to tell. All of us, we do have stories. The way to tell a story is where we just need to find, say, our own voice, the confidence, and the only thing that I've started feeling of late is, and that is a lot to do with just the anxiety created by the cyber world that we are equally a part of, or more a part of, as opposed to the real world now. And I think that we have stopped living our stories. We have stopped spending time with our stories. There's this anxiety, there's this eagerness to just somehow show them to the world, be it in terms of, I don't know, like a small post on social media, or I don't know, sometimes even from a feature film. I feel that there's this anxiety that we've stopped like living what we want to tell the world. We have stopped processing it. We've stopped putting things on that essential slow simmer where, you know, we let it grow, we let it brew. And I feel that in that anxiety, then we are churning out a lot of, and including myself, half-baked stuff that's not well thought out. And since there's such an intermixing of, say, formats and mediums now, how even say like a short clip on YouTube, somebody would go ahead and call it a film, which is fine. I mean, it's a word. You can call anything a film, or you can call anything a story, like a, you know, like a bit of text on a still photo on Instagram is called a story now. So I mean, I'm just saying, because, you know, with all these new notions, wherever we are in terms of evolution as humans, I just want to tell myself, and I keep telling myself this like many times a day sometimes, that, you know, relax. How about we breathe? How about we let it kind of, you know, be understood more, and things that you do just sort of stay with you. So I recall one of my teachers from junior school saying something to the effect, मालूमात में और इल्म में बड़ा फर्क होता है. And it resonates with me now that, you know, how, yes, information is great, it's brilliant, but then information is hardly a privilege anymore. You know, it's hardly a talent anymore. It's not even something that you need lots of money or technology or a big library to acquire it from. But yes, when it needs to, say, transition from there to becoming knowledge is so much more important. And hence, I think if it's just, say, the pace of the world that we are a part of now, or it is the way we are telling stories, everything just seems too kind of, you know, disposable, or most of it. I mean, there is a lot of good stuff being produced too, but so when I think of storytelling now, I think it comes from now, like, you know, this big box of doubt that I have, that I put it in it and I crush it and I ask myself, do I know my story well enough? Do I understand what I want to say, as opposed to now I have, like, you know, the cameras are simpler, the technology has facilitated telling stories much more rapidly or quickly, and it has become cheaper in a way too. I mean, so now when I think storytelling, I just want myself, and if somebody wants to take a page from my book, to just sort of, you know, understand that we just need to just calm down a little before we decide to really share our stories, and then just give ourselves the time to live with them and then narrate them with that, you know, that personal touch or that style or whatever one wants to call it.
Yes, I would like to mention one more thing, that you did this theater, No Time to Sleep, which was a 24-hour long play about capital punishment. How was that experience? I haven't even heard this example internationally.
People have done like a lot of incredible stuff, I think, not only rest of the world, but here too. But yeah, it was quite unusual. It was an interesting fusion of, say, theater and what we would now call, say, digital arts. It was a live theatrical act which was streamed on Facebook and other portals. And I think that just, other than, say, the dramatics or the whole big idea or the thought behind it, which was about capital punishment, I didn't know that, you know, other than, say, 2 hours or 3 hours on stage, I mean, I've never felt that kind of, you know, that kind of pressure to be in character and just to stay in character for that long. I think it just taught me a lot of patience. It taught me a lot of, you know, how to just stay persistent with something if you decide to do it. It was quite a, you know, like enlightening experience, I would say. It was very taxing physically and emotionally. It was a very, very dark piece. And I hope that it managed to at least create some conversation around the very tricky and mostly misunderstood topic that we were dealing with.
And your film, Zindagi Tamasha, it won the top prize in Busan Film Festival in South Korea. So I hope to see many, many more projects from you, and we are like waiting for your new work, that what you're going to make next.
Hopefully, inshallah. So there's another feature film which is almost ready. We are in the post-production phase. It would be very sad if that comes out before I, you know, have some daylight thrown on Zindagi Tamasha, but let's see.
Oh, definitely. Every person in each of every one we have, at different time of our lives, we play different characters also in real life. Sometimes we are a father, sometimes we are a son, sometimes we are a leader, sometimes we are a follower. So every person is an artist, him or in herself. So we play different roles in our real life, and that roles can be translated through media, film, theater, and TV on the wider screen. But everyone is playing a different role. But like Faran and you also said, it's all about telling about the journey that we have taken. It's all about that story that defines us. It's all about what we are portraying ourselves. Like Faran talked about that prism. is what actually we are looking at through. We're looking the world through that prism, and the world is looking at us. So we have to be at very best in terms of what we are translating into this world. And it's wonderful talking to both of you with different perspectives, different ideas, and different aspects that you both bring to this media industry. And it's wonderful hearing both of you having a different perspective about how to go about media. Samad has been doing career-defining movies. Faran has done career-defining roles that have actually put him in the map globally, and he's a recognizable face everywhere, and so are you. So you both of you are the pride of this country that have actually given us goosebumps in terms of an audience that we feel so proud that you have been able to join our conference. Obviously, that's one of those things. But contributing to the society is on a larger context has been what's the defining moment here is. I see Shafi Saab is shuffling his feet, ready to ask something or add something. Shafi Saab, I'll give it to you. I'd say you're ready to add another jab to it.
I just wonder if I can add another jab or not. But I have one question. Why don't we have these known celebrities? I'm not going to embarrass myself. I have read you, I have seen you, I have read the books about you, but this is the first encounter I'm having a first time. Your personality, Arif Sahib's personality, behind this personality, the real person who is scared, defining the ilm and knowledge, how it developed, what the role it played in your development from the school life and up to this stage. My life is simple. I have 3 stages. In Karachi, when I was a naughty boy and I was put in the boarding house to sort me out because I was the naughtiest one and I was a gangster, and I'm talking about 7, 8, 9, 8 years old. Then I gone to the boarding house because the city was embarrassed because of me, and they said translate him or translate his all those talents in the boarding house where the military discipline was. Second phase came in my life. Okay, university, leadership, all fake politics, burned jalado, mardo, gherdo, and those kind of things. And then came London, and all my life, 40 years gone in the BBC, as producer, as journalist, as trainer, and all those things. I have only 3 phases. You guys have more phases. Have you written about it? Have you written like kind of biography which can inspire me and inspire other people? Look at these. They are the real people, and how naughty they were. People don't have interaction. They see you in characters. They see you on a different level, on a different stage. I would love to see you talking to me in these conferences. And Mantu Sahib, Zindagi Ek Tamacha, I would like to see you as well in these conferences. And I promise, wherever I find you guys, I was thinking as if Yasmin Sahiba taking me for a ride because I was pushed into this one, but I think I got the bug now. My only jab is that you should be more accessible, more openly available to people, and people can talk to you in person. And I repeat the last time, in person. Talking to you is more enjoyable than watching you in films or documentaries and movies when the real one is not available. Thank you.
Right. Just my last question to both of you. I'll go with Faran first. If you're allowed to do a story, tell a story, what kind of a story would you like to tell? Faran, I will put this question first to you, then to Sarmad.
That's a very interesting question, because I think the answer to that changes at different times, at least for me, in the sense that there's so many stories that I want to bring to the forefront. Some of them are just entertaining, some of them are issue-based, some of them are literature and heritage-based. I think I'll go back to what I had said earlier, that if we can find the global human connectivity, then all stories become beautiful, because then you find the empathy with, that's why I'm attracted to this particular field, because it provides me with the opportunity to find empathy with people whom I otherwise might not have found empathy. But by walking in their shoes, it gives me that opportunity to see life from a different perspective. Having said that, right now, I think my big push is actually to explore and celebrate the literary prowess that our culture can provide. I think one of the biggest things that we are losing in our media, especially in Pakistan, is our connectivity to our literature, because the younger audiences have no reference points left from our old culture, our old literary works. And I think that is a huge gap, and that's a disservice that that's a responsibility that we need to take, to introduce these people, because it's not their fault that they're not connected. It is our fault that we have not connected them to that part of our culture, of our heritage. And I think we need to make sure that it becomes not just some antiquated history lesson, but something that is cool and can be adopted and be reflected in our lives. And I'm not talking about ideologies. I'm talking about the ability, the great minds like Manto, like, I mean, there's so many of these wonderful minds that have written some wonderful, beautiful things, which are great human lessons. My push right now is to introduce that part of our heritage to the world and frame it in a way which is accessible, not just as a novelty, but as a universal truth. Because the last thing I will say is that this idea that even when we go to college and stuff, when we write essays, our literary references become about Greek tragedies or Shakespeare. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. Again, I would love for us to add the richness of our culture and our literary prowess to the same pool where others can also find references in our literary works, which are now being pushed to the background. So that is my big push right now. I'm adapting and writing something that, well, my grandfather wrote a long time ago, because I think it is time to rediscover these writings and find, are they real classics? Because if they're real classics, then they will stand the test of time. That's why we call Shakespeare a classic, or that's why we call, some of the big writers of the West classics, because they've stood this test of time. And I think we need to do the same with our writers and our philosophers. So that is my big push right now, to push that kind of content.
Great. Well, I'm sure all of you would have read we read it in school, and I still read it and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Patras Bukhari का एक उन्वान है, उसको कहते हैं कुत्ते. And believe me, and you read it again and again, you find the level of finesse and humor in it that you actually are taken back. But the concept of it's just a small piece of writing. It's not very big. It's a small piece of writing, but it is unimaginable कि कुत्ते तो कुत्ते होते हैं. Then again, I would now give the floor to Sarmad. The same question goes to you as well. Let's have your views as well on it.
I would doubly endorse what Faran just said, and I do sometimes take out time and teach film or related subjects, and that is one of my things with newer filmmakers or storytellers. And when they say, oh, we don't know where to find the stories, we don't have a story, or how, and I was like, there is ample literature. There is, like, really, if I would not be branded as someone with hogged, I could just go on and make films based on his short stories for another few lifetimes if I have more than one. And that is just one of the authors. And I completely endorse what Faran said, because they are just in another, say, medium. And particularly for film or television or cinema, I think we just need to, again, and most of them have somehow survived all sorts of tests of time, and their relevance still, rings so true. So I would also want to adapt a lot of stuff that I've read, that I grew up reading, that is a part of our, say, the heritage, and to a large degree, like our genetic design too. That was a dream project that I have, and that too came as a byproduct or as an inspiration from the Zindagi Tamasha journey. So Zindagi Tamasha is predominantly in Punjabi, and very shamefully, although I have Punjabi parents, they never encouraged speaking Punjabi at home. I'm not blaming that. I think I was also a lazy child. I should have shown more initiative there. So when I had to shoot that film, I went to college. Like I really enrolled in a Punjabi program to, to see that, I want to know more about Punjabi, how to speak it, how to write it. And that's when I just discovered like these treasure troves. I mean, and out of all of them, I think we have all known Bulla's poetry, but Bulla's story is so big, it's so epic, that I wish one day I can find that kind of, wisdom and that sense of, confidence that, I can tell his story. And as Faran said, in a cool way, I want it to be like a, because all that stuff is really, really cool. It's ours. And it's for us to now share it with the world the way we want to share it. And another dream, if I do have, I would really, really someday find an opportunity and find something good enough where Faran and I can work together. I would love to direct Faran.
It's a done thing, Sarmad. It's a done thing. You tell me when, where, and how, and we'll do it. Yeah.
I'm stealing this opportunity.
No, definitely. See, these forums bring so many people together. They can be for projects, they can be for idea sharing. वो कहते हैं ना कि मतलब if you all remember कि किसी time पे जब हम छोटे होते थे तो कैसेट कहानियां आया करती थी शालीमार recording की. And we used to listen to that, and the depth of storytelling in those audio was immense. कि मतलब वो depth थी. We were listening to the audios, but we were taken to that plane where actually we felt that is actually happening. So that we need to bring out our own culture. You're absolutely right with Faran and as well as Sarmad, that we need to bring our own literary background. We have so much rich content and text available to us, which we haven't touched. So we can bring those to the ground. That would be something amazing that we have contributed to the society. Shafi?
सर मुझे ये कह लेने दीजिए कि इन दोनों डेविड एंड गोलाइट्स को इकट्ठा कीजिए और इनसे ये वादा लीजिए, और यास्मीन साहिबा आप भी आ जाएं इसमें, अमरीन फौजी नदवी साहिबा आप भी मेरा साथ दें, इन दोनों को बुक करें। इनके पास हफ्ते में वक्त नहीं है, 15 दिन में वक्त नहीं है, महीने में एक बार ये दोनों गुरु वर्कशॉप ऑर्गेनाइज करें, उसमें ये अपनी रोशनी और दानिशमरी से लोगों से डायरेक्ट बात करें। महीने में एक बार इनको वर्कशॉप के लिए अभी बुक कर लें, अभी हाँ कर देंगे इसलिए कि इनका तवा गर्म है, वरना ये
हमारे आने वाले स्टूडेंट्स के लिए
हाथ से निकल जाएंगे, इनको बुक करें हाथ के हाथ।
Guys, जी बोलिए डॉक्टर यास्मीन प्लीज।
You taken the name of your grandfather. I think so many people don't know about that. He's the grandson of Mr. Imtiaz Ali Taj, the great writer of Subcontinent. So, आपके नाना की जो अनारकली थी ना, वो भी आज यहाँ मौजूद थी, ज़ेबा बख्तियार. I think
जी, आपने अनारकली की बात की. इस वक्त one of the things that I'm working on, is adapting Anarkali, into a film version of it. That's actually what I'm working on. So that was my dream project that I was saying that I was working on right now. So yes, of course, that
we have it now. Absolutely a classic. We read those in the school, the Anarkali play by Sasa. It's a beautiful piece of writing. The depth of the writing is simply amazing. So like Shafi Jami Sahib said, so can we book both of you for a workshop if you have time?
I'm always available.
Great.
If my ramblings on can help somebody else, then
absolutely.
God help them is all I can say.
Absolutely. See, both of you bring such diverse culture and diverse understanding to the floor that it compels people to listen. We have been talking about for a long time now. So in this time also, I don't see anyone yawning or looking here and there. everyone is engrossed and engaged as an audience. So I will request Sarmad and as well as Faran. Obviously, I know you people have your own schedules and there are many things happening around you people, and you've been contributing a lot. So we would love to have you for a workshop. I will request Shafi Saab to please moderate that workshop for us. So that will bring the whole circle together.
I will certainly do that, and I will not charge you for that. I'm a journalist, I'm not doing anything free, but I will conduct. I promise you, I will be available no matter what part of the world I might be in at that time. But it could be virtual, it could be internet, you name it. I will come and conduct, and it will be a great honor to conduct such a auspicious event. Sir, I promise you, I will not charge you. Let me remind you, कुत्ते जिसकी आपने बात कर
जी बिल्कुल
उसका एक पैराग्राफ है, मुझे बहुत अच्छी तरीके से याद है, मैं बहुत हंसता था। उस सुन ले, अल्फाज मुख्तलिफ हो सकते हैं लेकिन कंटेंट मुख्तलिफ नहीं है। उसने एक मिसरा कहा, दूसरे से रहा नहीं गया, उसने शेर मुकम्मल किया, तीसरा तनूर के नीचे से निकल करके भागा भागा आया, उसने पूरी की पूरी गजल कह डाली, और उसके बाद ये कुत्तों का मुशायरा शुरू हो गया। ये कुत्तों का मुशायरा जब मैंने उसको पढ़ा, पेट में मेरे बल पड़ गए थे। तो उसके हम उसमें स्केचेस ले आएंगे, प्रोग्राम बनाना मुझे मेरे ऊपर छोड़ दे, लेकिन हम इसको, मैं उसको कंडक्ट करने के लिए तैयार हूँ सर, बिल्कुल तैयार हूँ।
It's a done deal then.
Done.
गोया बहुत ही कुत्ता।
Yes.
See, this is kind of things that we have in our repertoire. We have the kind of literature that can make anyone do anything. And if it is scaled up and taken to at a global level, at a global platform, it's going to do wonders for our people. Actually going to recognize that Pakistani culture, Pakistan literary culture, that's what we're actually talking about, has a lot of potential. Even we make movies on adapting movies what already have been made. So it might be a time where people start adapting our movies to their own genre. So this is one of the things that will be the I'm sure sabko pata hoga Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The typical point, the pivotal point is the self-actualization need. So that will create something that would be absolutely amazing. Amreen, the floor is yours. मैं तो बोलता ही रहूँगा ऐसे.
Brought to you by ILMA University. Let's not forget that.
Let's not forget that. So I'll keep on rambling, like Faran said. So before I ramble more and get lost in the space. So let's please continue with.
Hopefully, inshallah, see more.
Dr. Yasmin, आपका mic बंद. Dr. M, could you please open your mic?
Thank you, Amreen. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
A very good evening to everyone. As we come to the closing session of the second international virtual conference on emerging trends on media, film, and journalism, I'd like to take this grand opportunity, extend my special thanks and appreciation to the keynote speakers of the first, second day of this conference. As the head of the faculty and the Faculty of Media and Design, hosting a mega event with such a paramount theme is the need of the era. The aim was to bring the surface, discuss, and propound on topics related to the impact and influence of media-related domains. Indeed, the collection of diverse and deeply surveyed papers were able to justify the researches that the young aspiring presenters had undertaken in their study programs in different universities. It was quite impressive to note the keen observations, critical analysis, evidence-based findings, and well-founded conclusions, which were deliberated upon by the comments of the eminent chairs and co-chairs. The widely acclaimed conference was an amazing amalgamation of 10 keynote speakers and almost a dozen of chair and co-chairs, not to mention the prominent figures from the media industry such as Mr. Javed Jabbar, Mr. Shafi Naqi, Mr. Mazhar Abbas, Mr. Faran Tahir, Zeba Bakhtiar, Sarmad Sultan Khoosat, Dr. Rauf Arif, Dr. Kaushik Ray, Dr. Sudhamshu Dahal, among the notable others who graced this conference with their esteemed presence and contributed much to its success. I would also like to thank ILMA University's Chancellor, Mr. Noman Abid Lakhani, Vice Chancellor, Dr. Mansoor Zafar Dawood, and my special words of gratitude goes to the co-chair of this conference, Mr. Kashif Rafi, for his immense support throughout the conference. Together, we were able to organize such an impactful conference for the development of the key research areas in higher education sector globally. Thank you each and everyone for being a remarkable part of this international event and for making it a great success. Looking forward to inviting you to such international influential platforms in the future too. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ji. Thank you. It's wonderful. Dr. Rauf Arif is here, Faran Tahir, Sarmad Khoosat, and all the Zeba Bakhtiar, Javed Jabbar, galaxy of people who actually joined us for this conference, took out time from their precious people. Dr. Rauf, I think so you would like to add something. Please go ahead.
No, just I'm very thankful to each single one of you, and listening to Farhan and Sarmad, that was also incredibly amazing. Shafi Jami, I had been working for a long time as a journalist. You had been such an inspiration to me, and it's just such an amazing opportunity for me to see you all together on this platform. It's just my humble thanks to each single one of you, and I hope this journey continues very successfully moving forward from here. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Dr. Rauf Arif. It's wonderful. Thank you for joining us from Texas and USA. And it's wonderful, Shafi Saab, you have given a lot of time. My heartiest thanks to you for being with us. Faran, I know it's morning there, you have a lot of things to do, but you stayed with us. Thank you for staying so long, and it's wonderful having you. You're truly an Iron Man, and we look forward to you. एंड वो कहते हैं ना, हजारों ख्वाहिशें ऐसी कि हर ख्वाहिश पे दम निकले, बहुत निकले मेरे अरमान फिर भी कम निकले. So it's wonderful. Thank you for joining us. I'll see you around, and we'll meet again soon. Fran will look forward if you have time for a workshop for our students. They will love to see the true Iron Man of Pakistan with us. And
Inshallah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. Amreen, the floor is yours.
Thank you and goodbye, everyone.
Thank you for joining us. Do take care of yourself. Stay safe in this pandemic, and our sincere prayers and wishes are with you all. Thank you for joining us. Take care.